Well, hey everyone, welcome to Community Extras, and it's been a great season for communities. A lot of stuff to chew on together, and it's been really cool to look at these practical issues. I mean, not really cool to see that the church has so many issues, but the truth is, our churches today are made up of people, and as we talked about this week, if you are around people and in relationship with people, you are going to be wronged. There's no question about it. Someone will wrong you, and you will likely, hopefully inadvertently and unintentionally, wrong someone else. And so it's not a question of, as Paul looks into it this week and he's given instruction about how to handle when we're wronged. It's not a question of whether you will be wronged. It's a question of when you are wronged, what do you do with it? And the people in Corinth were going to the courts to handle these, what Paul calls trivial matters. And really it's matters of resources, it's money, it's stuff that we have. And he says, why are you going before these courts and these judges? Have you forgotten who you are? God has placed you in a position with Christ where one day you are actually going to judge and rule over these judges. And you're bringing these matters to people that ultimately you're going to sit as judge over. And these are trivial matters. You're placing your things and your money and your resources above people. You're placing it above your brothers and sisters as you're suing them, and you're placing it above the mission of God because the whole world is watching you make a mockery of our faith, make a mockery of Christ. We don't look any different if we're going to settle disputes the same way that the world does. Really good stuff practically to walk through this week. And, ultimately I think what he's talking about is how we handle people and loving them, how we handle the mission of God to not put our dirty laundry on display. And this doesn't mean that we don't, engage in, bringing things to light that need to be brought to light. There are too many churches that do sweep things under the rug because they're concerned about their reputation. He's not talking about that. He's saying, listen, when you bring these trivial matters out to the public, you're making us look and Jesus look ultimately ridiculous to the world because it's just showing our greed. It's showing our as he calls it, covetousness. One thing to just ask ourselves as we process this is, what's the marketplace today? Where do we put things out to the world? And I think for a lot of people, that's social media. Are we doing the same thing and bringing our issues to the world and looking just ridiculous in how we handle things? Whether we fly off the handle emotionally or we kind of throw shade at people online. Are we doing the same thing in the court of public opinion that these people were doing in a public court? And ultimately, when we do that, when we're just wanting what we feel like we deserve or we're entitled to, what he says is don't forget who you are. Yes, God makes you a judge with Christ, that one day we will judge. But he also says, don't forget that you were once judged for your sin and that you deserve to be judged and that all of us are in need of the mercy of God. Our God is a just God, but he's a merciful God. And when we walk in light of that, we recognize how much mercy we need, then we begin to let loose of our entitlement. We begin to have not so much a strong hold on what we think we deserve. We begin to place the care of people and the glory of God through loving others above the things we have. And that's the hope, that it would retool our hearts, that this text would challenge us to think about ways that we may be not loving our brothers and sisters, ways that we may be entitled, and hopefully get us to a right thinking where we're centered on the reality of our need for God's mercy. Thankful for the mercy of God, thankful for Jesus and the gospel as we live out lives as gospel people. And as you tonight, as brothers and sisters, talk about these things, I pray that God would move through it. Have a great discussion, everybody.